What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Kyle coming back at you today to talk about what happened in Week 13.
What
and I think we can kind of... What happened, Kyle? I mean, I kind of want to classify Week 13 as like a WTF week. Can we do that? Because, I mean...
It feels like it's the 13th time we've done that this year.
At least 7 times. At least 7. We're definitely over 500 here, but this is the time of the year where it's crucial to get victories. And the amount of studs that busted this week is just mind-blowing to me, to the point of where you can't even trust any running backs now. You can't trust any tight ends. The quarterbacks are all getting hurt. Luckily, for the most part, wide receivers did what they were supposed to this past week, but that was just about it, Kyle, for Week 13.
I don't know about you, but
Right.
I don't ever want to relive 2022 ever again.
Yeah, I'm okay with 2022 ending, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I'm not against it by any means.
No, me neither.
We're going to go ahead and kick this one off with the studs. The studs that dudded in Week 13. There are timestamps down below if that is what you are looking for, but we highly recommend that you watch all of this because it's going to be highly entertaining. Because I'm
smarter too.
Probably, and at some point I'm probably going to get heated at some point because a lot of these guys affected my own personal outcomes this week. And let's start it off with Marcus Mariota, who was a top 10 quarterback coming into the week. Now, he didn't have the easiest of matchups, but we always talk about how he needs the rushing upside to help. He only had 17 yards rushing, 167 yards passing, a touchdown, and interception. He dudded. How about Lamar Jackson? Now, this one really, really irritated me because I had Lamar Jackson, I believe, at 7 in my rankings. And I ended up moving Justin Fields to quarterback 10 at the end of the week. So a lot of people, even during the live stream, are like, hey, I got Lamar and Fields, where you going? And I'm like, I got Lamar higher. And then Lamar went out, only played 10 snaps before injury. And now he's going to miss, I've never even heard this, Kyle.
Days to weeks.
Days to weeks. That is mind-blowing. I've never, ever. I have played fantasy football and watched the NFL for over 25 years, and I have never heard an injury designation of days to weeks for a player. All they said is
tell us how many milliseconds he's going to be out at this point.
They said it wasn't season ending, but that doesn't tell you a whole lot. I mean, that was bad for a lot of people. I hated that happened so early to Lamar Jackson, which means Mark Andrews also on the list. But here's what's crazy about this one, Kyle. Mark Andrews ended the game with 7 targets, 4 receptions, and 53 yards. Not that great, right?
No.
He still finishes tight end 9 overall on the week. So he was a dud because he didn't score any points, but by the looks of it, neither did hardly any other tight end.
I'm going to bring that up when we get to the misses section.
Okay, good. What about Nick Chubb? He goes against the Houston Texans, who allow almost 30 fantasy points per game to running backs, and Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in football, 17 carries for 80 yards, and that's about it. I'm going to talk about that when we get to the hit section too, because I'm worried, if I'm being completely honest here. Travis Etienne, we know that he wasn't 100% healthy. They said he was good to go. He came in, fumbled the ball right off the bat, 13 carries for 54 yards, and then they got absolutely waxed by the Detroit Lions, and they didn't really have to run much in the second half. I know you're happy to see the Lions go out there and put up 40, though, Kyle. I mean, you haven't been able to see that very often for like a decade and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So
look good.
They're looking pretty good. How about Aaron Jones? He played a season low in snaps, only 25 snaps due to re-aggravating a shin injury, which means we saw a whole lot more A.J. Dillon. How about this one? Derrick Henry. Now we know that was a tough matchup going up against Philly, but we said right off the bat that, hey, they need to control time of possession to keep the ball away from Philadelphia so they don't score too much. Well, they didn't keep it away long enough because Philly went out there, torched them early. It's the first time ever, Kyle, and I don't know if you caught this one or not. I know you were at a football game this weekend, I think. I mean, maybe the hat kind of gives it away.
A decent football game.
But here's what's crazy. We had a 41-yard touchdown called back by A.J. Brown. He didn't get both feet in bounds. The very next play, it was another 41-yard touchdown to A.J. Brown. So it was back-to-back plays. It was like it was meant to happen. Derrick Henry, 11 carries for 30 yards. Woof. How about Kenneth Walker, another top running back? He gets injured early, only plays in 14 snaps, is seen arguing on the sidelines with Geno Smith. He killed a lot of fantasy people this week. George Kittle, 2 for 22. That's probably going to happen when you even don't have your starting quarterback in Brock Purdy, who, even though he
Mr. Irrelevant, Brock
Mr.
Purdy.
Irrelevant, that's right.
The last pick of the 2022 draft.
I mean, honestly, I may have a hot take a little bit later, Kyle.
Ooh.
It may be pretty damn spicy, but I'm feeling it right now.
So it's chilly outside here. It would be nice to warm up.
I'm gonna bring some warmth when we get to the hit section here. How about Jalen Waddle? He was dealing with an injury. He only played 24 snaps, had 1 reception for 9 yards, did nothing. Travis Kelce, he only had 4 catches for 56 yards and a costly fumble. Dalton Schultz, 2 for 33. TJ Hawkinson,
and they scored 50 points in that game.
How do you score 50 and Dalton Schultz was 2 for 33? That's just crazy to me. And then TJ Hawkinson, 4 for 33. It was not a good week for top tier tight ends, top tier running backs. It was rough, Kyle. There was a lot of big name players that absolutely crapped the bed or got injured, and it killed a lot of fantasy playoff hopes here in week 13.
It did. And now we're running into a week with 6 buys.
Yeah. Woo! But that's like that's like getting kicked in the nuts, but you think that you've escaped it because they only got the right one. And then, like, as you're coming back, they double back and they hit the left one, and you're completely done for.
I was thinking more like you got kicked in the nuts, but they really got underneath and like the toe hit the taint as well.
Okay. Honestly, I totally relate with what you're talking about. So I totally get that, which is probably
feel like
weird.
That's the first time that Jake has like tried to stop me in the middle of a sentence.
I mean, I kind of knew where you were going. I'm like, he's gonna say taint, isn't he? He's gonna bring up a taint. Okay. Anyway, so those are some of the.
Is that word cleared for? That word is cleared for YouTube. We're good. I double checked
it. All right, cool. All right, now that we've talked about all the studs that dudded here, let's talk about a few of our misses, our bigger misses on the week. I'll start off with quarterbacks. Jared Goff. I contemplated going back and forth with Jared Goff. He had 14 points, and I'm like, man, this is just one of those situations, especially with Jameson Williams, quote unquote, coming back. Not that I was expecting much from Jameson Williams, if anything, but this overall offense, I really liked the matchup. I didn't trust my gut. He threw for 340, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Taylor, show me your Heineke. He's just not one of those guys that performs well on the road. He hadn't had a game on the road all year with multiple touchdowns, goes on the road, faces the Giants, throws up 275 and 2 touchdowns, and really has a lot to thank to his wide receivers. That Jahan Dotson spin move into the end zone, that was an elite play right there that really helped benefit Taylor Heineke. The best road game of the year by far for him. I'm going to take a miss on Cam Akers, but I'm going to give you a full disclosure that I don't care. I'm probably never starting Cam Akers again. Like, he had 17 carries for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 short touchdowns, only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. But what's kind of weird to me is you have a guy that basically wanted to be traded and not on the team anymore. You had a young player coming off of an injury that they were really hyped about in Kyren Williams. And yet last week, Cam Akers had 17 carries and Kyren Williams only had 3 total touches. That right there is a little bit odd to me. Can I rely every week on 2 Cam Akers touchdowns? Probably not, and that's why I'm not going to overly start him very much. A.J. Dillon I had as a sit. It really benefited him from Aaron Jones not playing a full set of snaps. He had 18 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. And then DeAndre Swift. I've been saying this for weeks, Kyle. Weeks upon weeks upon weeks. I missed it by 1 week. I said a big game is coming, and it's going to happen on everyone's bench because we can't seem to trust this guy because he's not getting enough volume. He got 18 touches, and that's the most he's had in a game since week 1. The big game happened. He finished top 10. I guess I miss on DeAndre Swift, even though we've been talking about it forever. And then Zonovan Knight, or Bam Knight, whatever you want to call him. I wanted to see him do it again before we're just like, you know what? I want to trust the running back of the Jets. He went out there 15.
No one heard of.
That nobody heard of 3 weeks ago. Like, nobody knew who this kid was. He had 15 carries for 90 yards and then added in 5 receptions for another 28. Not a bad day overall, a top 15 week for Zonovan Knight. Maybe he's somebody we look a little bit closer here going forward.
Wide receiver wise, I mean, I even messaged Jake last night because, again, I was in Indy all weekend long with my son. We went to the Big Ten championship game. So Sunday night, I was trying to get caught up on things a little bit. We listened to the Lions game on the drive home, but didn't have the full knowledge of the scope of the day until I sat down that night. And I messaged Jake because one of the first things I looked at was Pittsburgh. And I said, how did George Pickens get 2 targets?
He had to have gotten hurt, right? He probably didn't play the whole game.
Nope.
Nope.
Just, that's just what we decided to do this week. So, George Pickens laid an absolute egg for everybody out there. A couple of big performances that we didn't see coming. Alec Pierce had a big touchdown and a big day for Indianapolis. He did have a almost costly fumble at the end of the game. Got reversed though, so he ends up being a miss because I had him as a sit.
Great touchdown
Gallup.
grab.
Yeah, Michael Gallup I had as a sit as well. The dude hadn't done anything since week 4 when he came back from injury. Had really been non-existent. No fantasy startable days at all this season. 2 big touchdowns last night. Was really hoping one of those would have went to Dalton Schultz, but neither here nor there. Josh Palmer ends up having a decent week. Earlier in the week, there was a whole lot of, is Gerald Everett still going to be able to play? Is Mike Williams going to be back? Right now, I feel like that's a very fluid type of team that we have to deal with out in LA, and you just don't know who's going to get it because DeAndre Carter got it last week and Josh Palmer didn't get anything, and then kind of reverse roles. No touchdown for Palmer this week, but the receptions were there and the yards were there as well. Michael Pittman, he had a down performance. I knew it was going to be risky if we were just going to start him anyway. Ended up going with him as a start. He didn't do anything, which I mentioned in the wide receiver video that it would end up being risky, and he was much lower in my rankings. I told Jake that under misses, if he just wanted to put every tight end, that would be fine, because only 5 tight ends scored double-digit fantasy points this week, and only 8 tight ends had more than 8 fantasy points this week.
That's disgusting. That is disgusting. How can you trust anyone, especially when you're looking at, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, like all those guys didn't do crap this week.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
It was not a good week for tight ends. Even close to it. I mean, the top tight ends on the week were like Greg Dulcich and Gerald
who you've
Everett.
had as a start in previous weeks,
and
has done nothing. And then you say, you know what? I don't know if it's going to happen. This offense is horrible. Greg Dulcich has a top 5 week.
Yep, he has a top 5 week. So, I mean, if you just wanted to say every tight end in the world, actually, there was only 2 I didn't miss on, and we'll talk about them
pretty soon.
But that's the way, I mean, in the waiver wire video that comes out before this, I even had mentioned that, like, I didn't add anybody under tight ends this week for the waiver wire video. I was like, just wait till the start and sit video, and we're just going to talk about them, because if you're trying to pick up a tight end off the waiver wire right now, it's really just a roll of the dice.
Yep, exactly. I mean, Evan Ingram was on there. Noah Fant was on there. I mean, I can probably say, Kyle, that over our time together, I haven't seen a bigger Evan Ingram truther than you. And the fact that you have stuck with this guy and he's burned you, and then you finally say, you know what, you Evan Ingram, I'm not going to start you. He goes out there and you two need to have some beef. There needs to be some beef here, because you have been his number 1 supporter, and dude just gave you the virtual finger in fantasy football. And I'm talking about the middle finger, by the way. All right,
Evan Ingram, if you're watching this right now, just know I'm not angry. I'm disappointed.
I'm angry. I'm mad.
Hits. Who did we get right?
Okay, we got a lot right. Now I'm going to start off with one that I feel really good about, Kyle. I felt good. I watched the majority of this game, and I'm like, I really hope this doesn't backfire, because I got quite a bit of backlash last week about saying that Deshaun Watson is not a quarterback I am interested in. I do not want to start Deshaun Watson. I never would have held on to him for all this time. Don't get sucked into it because he's playing Houston and all the emotional. The dude did not look good at playing quarterback. His arm, but I'm not going to say he's not good anymore. This is what happens when you don't play on the field in game situations in the competitive NFL games for 2 years. Like, he's
800 and some odd days, right?
He's just behind, right? He's just slow. And I'm not going to say he can't regain that, but the entire reason why we're off him, and we've been off him, and the reason why I had him listed as a sit, I'm like, it's going to take some time. What's really worrisome here to me, Kyle, is this offense almost seemed to completely change by adding in Deshaun Watson, which is somewhat understandable. I mean, you got Deshaun Watson. He should be an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. But the strength of this team is running the football. Yep. And they're going to start getting away from it because they're going to want to get Deshaun Watson on track, and that's going to worry me for Nick Chubb going forward. Plus, if he struggles for multiple games, it's going to give, less and less scoring opportunities for Nick Chubb. I am worried about the Browns offense for the next 2 to 3 weeks, which fantasy-wise is basically almost the rest of the season. So if you held on to Deshaun Watson, if you feel like, hey, this is my guy rest of season, more power to you. But in my opinion, there's at least 15 other guys that I would rather start probably almost every week, other than Deshaun Watson. So I'm glad that he went out there, didn't make me look stupid. Derek Carr. I continue to go back to Derek Carr, and everybody's like, I hate Derek Carr. A lot of people hate Derek Carr, and I don't understand. Is he going to go out there and be a Joe Burrow, a Patrick Mahomes? No, probably not. But Davante Adams by himself basically makes Derek Carr a top 12 quarterback for the most part. Another 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. Davante Adams cannot be stopped by anyone. At this point, you just throw it down the field to Adams. More than likely, he's going to get it. I had both Zeke and Pollard as starts last week. That's not crazy. I ranked both of them inside my top 13 on the week. I said, listen, we could have a scenario where we have 2 running back 1 weeks out of the same backfield. That was a little spicy at the time. Both of them finished inside the top 10, had great weeks for both of them. Samaje Perine, it was up until the very last minute. We did not know about Joe Mixon all week long, but in the start-sit video on Tuesday, I told you not to stress if you had both of these guys because it's a plug-and-play scenario. If you don't have Mixon, don't worry. If he's out, you just slot in Samaje Perine. You're going to get great production.
Slide him in.
Just you come together, Kyle, and you just slide it in. He had 27 touches for over 150 total yards. Brian Robinson was a solid start for people. We had him as a flex play. He had over 100 total yards. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers running backs. I had all of them as a sit.
What about Jaylen Warren?
Yeah, what about Jaylen Warren, Kyle? Did you forget? Hey, Kyle, you forgot about Jaylen Warren, didn't you? I know I was told I forgot about Jaylen. No, did not forget about Jaylen Warren. This is what happens when you have a low-producing backfield that's going to use 3 backs every single week. You don't start them with any confidence, especially when some of them are banged up. Najee's not 100%, but he still played, and that absolutely killed the entire backfield. They were all sits, and none of them scored over 10 fantasy points.
My best, I think, call of the week was ranking
I agree.
Amon-Ra St. Brown inside the top 5 receivers and being told repeatedly that my fandom was overshadowing what should be a really different call. Last time I checked, he was the wide receiver 1. Did that change?
I don't know. Did he
drop Davante Adams now?
I don't know. Let me see. If he dropped down to 2. He dropped to 2. Davante Adams went to 1. Amon-Ra is number 2.
Number 2. So I made that call. That was a good call. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian Watson, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, running touchdown, but we had him as a start. Yes, like I've mentioned in the videos, you're starting him and banking on a touchdown. He continues to get those touchdowns. And I've said it too, as long as Aaron Rodgers is playing, I think we're okay with it. Metcalf and Lockett, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett had both of them as starts. Big days, tons of yards and a touchdown for each of them. They both balled out this week. Terry McLaurin had another really good day as well. Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin, they've got to be like best friends.
They're pretty close.
They've got to be, because if Taylor Heineke is in the game, we know Terry McLaurin's getting some decent looks. He scores again. He gets 80 yards this week. That looked good. Garrett Wilson ended up moving him back to a start this week and said, hey, as long as Mike White is out there, then we are going with Garrett Wilson. He ended up, I felt like he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but ended up going for like over 160 yards yesterday. Great day.
They let Mike White throw almost 60 times this past week. They wouldn't give Zach Wilson 25 pass attempts in a game, but Mike White out there just slinging balls everywhere.
Mike.
Mike White, he's not even looking sometimes. He's just slinging it.
Yeah, we mentioned we mentioned Brown earlier, right? AJ Brown going up against his former team. I had him as a top 5 wide receiver as well, said he was going to have a huge day, but it was his counterpart, Devontae Smith, where I was like, listen, Tennessee's defense, they're going to give up some points. I think Devontae Smith is also going to have a good day. Boom. He ends up going out there. He scores a touchdown as well. Good day for Devontae Smith. Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Saved by a kick return.
Saved by a kick return.
He still qualified as a start, and he still scored you some points.
So barely.
And I didn't see anyone else telling anybody to start Donovan Peoples-Jones other than you.
So with DPJ, I mean, like you said earlier, Jake, I'm worried about DPJ and Amari Cooper going forward because Deshaun Watson does not look good, which is to be expected. Again, we've talked about that. But I just don't know what we're going to get out of that offense. So we'll look at him again next week. Darius Slayton, another guy that I feel like, hey, if you throw him in there, he's not going to win you a week, right? But I don't think he's going to lose you a week either. He had 90 receiving yards. He's been like over 60 receiving yards every game for the past, or like 5 of the last 6 or something like that. So he continues to be a guy. If you throw out there, you're going to get some decent points. He's not going to lose you your week, but he's probably not going to win it. But he continues. And then the only 2 tight ends I got right this week, Cole Kmet and Pat Freiermuth.
I mean, this is
neither of which had huge days.
Yeah, none of them had huge days. I mean, the overall tight end position, like you said earlier, was just absolutely crappy. The top 5 tight ends on the week: Noah Fant, Evan Ingram, Greg Dulcich, Gerald Everett, and Cole Kmet. The only tight ends to score over that. And even looking at the Monday Night Football game tonight, I don't think we can count on 10. Actually, this would probably be the week that Taysom Hill goes off, right, Kyle?
So I mentioned that to people when we found out Juwan Johnson was going to be out. I actually commented and said, and it was on the show, the live show I did on Friday. I actually commented and said that I would be okay risking Taysom Hill as like a top 8 option this week.
It just seems like the 2022 thing, right? It just
so
seems
if Taysom Hill does go off this week, I'm going to take credit for it.
All right, then. Take credit for it in next week's video. But yeah, overall, bad timing for a lot of people. We understand, we're right there with you, but sometimes when you take a look at the big picture, it really helps you understand. I think so many people, Kyle, we see it a lot, whether it's in the comment section or anywhere else, social media. A lot of people just see a stat line and like, this dude's garbage. Like, I knew Aaron Jones sucked. And then like in their mind the next week, I'm not starting Aaron Jones. And they don't even look at the reasons as to why things happen. You know, you rush out and grab AJ Dillon if he's on a waiver wire somewhere because he hasn't done anything. And then just to find out that Aaron Jones is 100% possibly next week, and you have, that's why you need to take a look at all these things that we talk about. And that's the reason why we do this show. Week 13, somewhat of a dumpster fire overall. Hopefully it improves with 6 bye weeks coming up in week 14. It's going to be another rough one because the waiver wires, it's picked pretty thin out there, Kyle. There's not a whole lot out there to really go out there and save a lot of people. So hopefully you've prepped for this week if you're in the playoff hunt. But if you're not, don't forget you can still play spoiler. I used to enjoy it. If I was eliminated from a league, Kyle, I wanted to try to eliminate my buddies and my friends so they couldn't get in either. And you can still have a lot of fun with fantasy football. But that was the recap.
There's a little bit of luck baked into it, right? Especially even when we talk about the tight end position. You're just going to have to cross your fingers and hope that you get luckier than the Ohio State Buckeyes making the college football playoffs.
I knew at some point you were going to sneak something in. I knew it was coming at some point. I figured we almost made it all the way through, but I knew at some point it was going to, you were going to sneak it in there, and you did. All right, that was the week 13 recap. If you enjoyed it, do us a favor, hit the like button down below. If you have other things in your league that happened that absolutely just devastated you, leave it down in the comment section below so we can all share in the pain together. But hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week. Be on the lookout for all of our upcoming videos here for week 14. But for now, me and Kyle, we're out of here for the day. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.